Great.
We're on.
Great, thanks, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Today is December 18th, 2020. And the first item on the agenda is the public hearing for the Lion Factory business. I'd like to open the public hearing on that. And Justin Miller, you have the floor.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. Just for clarification quickly, the public hearing this morning is being held with respect to two applications from the same equity group, Regan Development. There's Lion Factory Building and Lion Factory Commerce. Just for context, it all involves the same building structure at 750 2nd Avenue in the city of Troy. They anticipate acquiring the building and splitting it into two condominium units, of which one will be Lion Factory Commerce, the first floor, which relates to the commercial spaces on the ground level. Lion Factory Building will be a condominium unit on the top floors 2 through 6, associated with proposed 151 units of affordable housing. Today's public hearing was scheduled, or two hearings were scheduled, one for each of those applications and units. The terms of the pilot for Lion Factory Commerce haven't been fully finalized and committed to yet. However, the Lion Factory Building project, we are at final terms of the proposed pilot agreement that Steve can provide details on further into the public hearing. But just for clarification, the hearing is being opened today for Lion Factory Building LLC, which applied to the Industrial Development Agency for financial assistance in connection with their project, which largely is an affordable housing project to be located at 750 2nd Avenue in the city of Troy, for the conversion of that former industrial building into affordable housing at 151 units, along with general site improvements, the installation of equipment and other improvements to complete that project. They've applied to the IDA for the standard suite of benefits, including sales tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax exemptions, and a pilot agreement through the IDA, which has been identified as a deviation from our standard policy. This is a proposed fixed payment pilot for a term of 30 years, which is a little bit longer than our standard. However, this is a standard approach for affordable housing projects that the IDA has helped in the past. The Planning Commission served as lead agency for purpose of seeker to review the project. And this public hearing is scheduled and being conducted to consider the financial assistance that is in front of the agency. With that, I can hand it over to Justin Neto and Steve to invite the developer to make any comments or answer any questions of the board, and to allow the public to provide any public comments if any are to be presented today. So there you go,
Justin.
guys. Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Are there any comments or questions from the public at this point in time for Justin or anybody else?
And, oh, wait, hang on a sec. Give me a minute. I got somebody in the waiting room. Admit. Okay, so the only person I see on here that may want to comment on the public hearing is Charlotte O'Connor, and hang on, she's still joining. Can you hear me, Charlotte O'Connor? And it looks like
She's muted right now.
Is she muted? I can't find her now. Charlotte, you appear to be muted. Or if you want to chat to me, you can chat. Do you want to make a comment on the public hearing?
No, thank you. Just listening in.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Okay.
So yeah, if no one else has any questions or comments regarding the public hearing for Lion Factory Business LLC. But, did I hear somebody? No?
Okay.
Okay.
No, I don't think we have anybody else, so the board
All
can
right.
talk about it when we discuss the pilot at the regular meeting.
So I will, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing on this. Do I have a motion?
I make the motion, so moved.
Stephanie? Do I have a second?
Second.
Susan?
Second, Sue.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the public hearing is closed. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Justin. Steve, are we able to, I know Justin Miller had said that we can do that prior to live streaming. Have we been able to figure that out?
Well, I think we have a live, anybody can get onto this meeting right now,
Okay.
so we are a live meeting.
Great. All right.
Do you have a quorum now, Steve?
We do, we've got, and Jim Gully just joined, so we have 6 of 8. If you remember, Rich resigned, so we have 6 of 8, so we have a quorum.
Okay, yeah, proceed.
Great, thanks. Thanks, guys. All right, so moving on to item number 2, the approval of the minutes from November 20th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Thanks, Jim. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Stephanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, minutes are approved for November 20, 2020. Moving on to item number 3, the project authorization resolution for the Lion Factory business.
Okay, Justin, do you have to, you want me to open it up? So, well, I'll open this up. So again, this was presented last month. We split, in discussion with Larry Regan, the developer, I pulled the commercial component of it because what we kind of just, we need to do some further discussion on that. So it was important that we got the residential piece completed at this point so that they could apply for, put an application into the state or put an application in for their tax credits on this project. If you look at the cost benefit analysis that was included in there, I broke this out into a host community payment and a pilot payment. The two together make the total annual payment, which starts at $140,000 in the first year post-construction, 2023. And I've got it broken out roughly 1/3 for the host community payment. That goes directly to the city of Troy. It's billed by the city of Troy. And the 93,000 is a pilot payment that comes to the IDA first and then sent to the city. And that is split between the Lansingburg School District, the city of Troy, and the county of Rensselaer as well. So we pulled out the host community payment because basically there are additional costs that the city will have related to this project, as we talked about earlier, that increased public service costs, use of other city services and the like. So we bring that out so that the city gets that funding first to cover their costs. It escalates at 3% per year, and this is again patterned after what we have done with the Art House and with what's the other one, right? Tapestry, and our affordable housing projects that we do. The reason for the length of the 30-year term is that's what the funder is requiring to, it's a way of ensuring that the affordability stays in place over the term of the agreement. Let's see, so total estimated real tax savings are 1.3 million. Estimated financial assistance, when you include the sales tax and the mortgage sales tax, is $2.8 million over the 30 years. I don't know if anybody, again, this is a building that the owner, I think, was starting to have troubles with. They were only using one of the 6 floors there. They wanted to come to an agreement to utilize the rest of the property. There's not a lot of commercial demand up in that area. residential housing is really the way to redevelop this project, and the mix of incomes that the developer is using are in line with the income levels in the village of Lansingburg right now. So again, the 151 units, there are only three bedroom units in there. The majority of them are 1 bedroom, and 33 of the 150 are 2 bedrooms. So we don't anticipate there's going to be a big impact on the school district for additional students. So that's it. Justin Miller, do you need to add anything legally into that, or?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. No, I wouldn't add anything else at this point. If there's any board questions, or if there's any questions or information that can be provided through Hannah on behalf of the developer, I guess now would be the time, and then the resolution can be advanced through motion and then a roll call.
I have a question. Steve,
Yes.
you mentioned 2 places, the Art House and Tapestry, that had similarly structured pilots.
Yes.
Are there any others that were further in the past, or is this a relatively new way of doing things?
No, we've been doing them for a while. So Monument Square Apartments was done that way as well. I think O'Neill Apartments. So we have been doing this way for quite some time. And it's important to remember that as of right, there is a way, there was a law enacted years ago that allows developers of affordable housing to get a certain amount of a tax pilot anyways, because cities and IDAs were refusing to fund affordable housing projects. And so that was a way that there's another way, there's 2 other ways that the developer could do this. But this is really, I think, the easiest, especially with the commercial component for it, and gives the most is the most predictable for all entities involved. But we've done it a number of times.
And it was mentioned that these are condominiums, affordable
I might have missed. Did I say that? They're apartments.
Justin did.
Yeah, just for purposes of, for clarification on that, they aren't condo units for purposes of the residential units. Just the developer is creating 2 condominium units, one to own the commercial, one to own the housing. So a Lion Factory building will own the housing condo unit and then lease 151 affordable rate apartment units. So it's affordable and commercial apartments in essence that allows the IDA to facilitate the project.
Can you, so it's like one giant condo? One person owns it and it's called a condominium?
Right. It's not uncommon, especially downstate, for developers to look at an old building like this or a new construction and, place a parking garage in one unit for condominium purposes, place commercial and retail in one ownership structure that's a condominium unit, and then the housing in another. This is an example where they just want to keep the commercial ownership and financing structure independent from the housing. So it's not 151 units. It's just one affordable developer, Regan Development, deploying this project through 2 condominium units.
So each condo is taxed separately?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So each tax parcel that's established on that building, when the condominium unit is established and approved, the assessor will assign a new tax parcel ID number to the first floor, and then a tax parcel ID number to the top. And we will have a corresponding pilot for each one. The pilot we're talking about today is for the upper floors, and Steve and the development team will hopefully finalize the terms of the first floor so we can reschedule and conduct that public hearing in January.
Okay.
Great. Any
Chair.
other questions or comments?
Chair,
Yes, Jim.
Steve, as you know, I'm not a real big fan of pilots, especially 30-year pilots in the city. But I understand that sometimes a project requires some sort of leeway there. But I noticed that Justin has said that we were giving them the whole suite of discounts. Is there something there that we can look through to see are all those discounts necessary, one? And if so, are we getting any type of public amenities back from the builder, towards the neighborhood that they're going to be in?
Well, so I mean, the three benefits are the mortgage recording, the sales tax exemption, and the payment in lieu of taxes. So, I mean, that's normally what we offer all three of those out for a project like this. The developer is paying to the IDA a significant administration fee that we receive for doing this project. So out of that, I anticipate using funding from that to provide benefits to the community as well. Actually, I was going to talk about that a little bit later. At the last IDA meeting, we created a waterfront project, and at the next meeting, I'm going to ask to extend that up into Lansingburg so we can use some of these that we've received from the St. Augustine development, and at a future date when we receive these funds to make improvements in the area. And that's, I mean, in general, and aside from developing a building that's going to be vacant, that will provide 150 units of people on the street using our services as well. But so indirectly, yes, but not directly, no.
So nothing will be written in the contract. This will all come from what you develop outside of the funds they pay the IDA. Can you tell us how much those funds are?
It is based on, so what is it? Hang on a sec. I can, but I don't have it in front of me. Administrative fee, it's over $300,000. That's a significant amount. St. Augustine was considerably less.
Is it 300 in total, or is it 300 just from this project alone?
That's from this project alone.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Steve, I got a question. What if he sold his property within, like, I don't know, 5-10 years or something?
You mean the pilot? You're asking what happens with the pilot?
Yeah,
So-
everything, all the mortgage tax. I mean,
Well, the recording
is he
tax
required
and
to keep
sales.
it is he required to keep it for the project, managing the project for a certain time period, or?
He is not required to. Typically, they can ask. I'll let Justin explain the transferability of the pilot. They can ask for a transfer, and we've done that in the past. That cannot be like unreasonably withheld, but it would transfer. The short answer is it would transfer with the project.
Right.
And,
These projects generally get held for, and you have assurances that it will be held for a longer period of time, or at least any kind of potential longer period of time than a market rate apartment project, which sometimes they sell earlier on as soon as they're stable. In this case, there's low-income housing tax credits involved in a pretty complex investment structure where tax credit investors will be involved with the equity ownership of the project that will require them to continue to hold ownership for a period of time to allow those tax credits to fully mature and be realized by the investors. So typically that'll take at least 7 to 10 years. After that time, if the development entity were look to sell the project and want to transfer the pilot, they would have to come to the IDA and ask for permission, at which time you'll have a reasonable opportunity to take a look at the buyer, make sure that they're, not like on a Patriot Act list or something like that, but generally speaking, it'll be another, a moneyed or experienced development team acquiring the project. And then the IDA would enter into an assignment and assumption agreement with buyer and seller, and then the project gets assigned. We've done a few of those in the past. I think one of the more recent examples was the Beeman project. There was like 30 apartment buildings up by RPI, Garnet and Beeman, I think. And I think,
We also did the Sliding Dirty Building, 16 First Street, and 2 other properties down in the downtown that were transferred.
yeah, the conservatory, I think Jeff File got out of that one. And then
Yeah.
I think sold 16 First Street as well. So there's some recent examples where projects were assumed by buyers.
So it's not uncommon for the developer to do the project, make their money, and then sell the project. But in the meantime, what we have is we have a new development in the city that's, producing, that's beneficial to the city.
Do you renegotiate the pilot or just keep the same one?
It's
Typically,
the agreement drafted gets transferred over to the new ownership. If we try to get another crack at the apple, it's really not fair. We're negotiating a deal up front, and if it's portable, it's the same deal. There have been instances where the developers have asked for enhancements if there's trouble with the project, but generally speaking, the same deal gets portable.
How is this project beneficial to the city? And I'm not joking.
okay, well,
151 units on that street.
So the first thing is it's the reuse of a building that's sitting mostly vacant right now. So it's a preservation of an asset in the city that, who knows, I mean, the city could end up potentially owning that in 5 or 10 years if the developer finds additional stress using the building as it is largely vacant. The apartments are available to people to the income levels that are in that neighborhood right now. So there are, potentially 150 new residential units of people serving, being on the streets, helping to bring back the retail component of the area. And obviously, I mean, it does generate additional taxes for the city compared to what it is receiving right now.
What are the taxes on it now?
The taxes on it right now, I think, hang on, I got it here, $54,000. It's probably a little bit less. It's probably about $52,000. I'm looking at a 2023 number. So, I mean, we're basically tripling the revenue that the city's getting, and even more so actually because of the host community agreement.
Yeah, I would say tripling tax revenue, preserving a building, and putting over $40 million into a project in the city is the main benefits. And 151 units of safe housing.
Steve, are there any terms in the agreement to tie the developer to the building for a certain period of time? Kind of jumping on Albert's question. I mean, or could he turn around in a year and sell it, or is there a way to negotiate a longer term to be able to tie him to that facility?
I think Justin kind of answered that question, that he's tied to it with the affordable housing, or with the federal funding of this project. But otherwise, no. I mean, we don't typically do that with developers, require them to be in for the duration of a pilot. I mean, sometimes they want to get out for one reason or another, take their profit and move on after they've developed and created the asset for the area. So no, it's not something we typically do.
But Steve, if I could interject, as I've told this board on our meeting a couple months ago by Zoom, and as I told everybody when that attended our site walk in our development in Cohoes, we're a family business. We're not develop, flip, and sell type of developers. Those developers exist, but our assets are our assets. These deals take a lot of time, effort, brain damage, energy to put together. And our track record, if you look at our track record, which I think you as a board have, and you've done your site walk with us in Cohoes, I made it very clear at both meetings that we are in these deals for the long term. When you see us at this board meeting, you're going to see us in 20 and 30 years. We're developing this asset, and we're a family business. So I'm working with my sons. They will take, when I retire in 10 or 12 years, they'll take over this asset. This asset, though it's a limited return asset, because it's affordable housing, is still an asset. It's in our best interest to keep the asset pristine, keep the rentals operating efficiently, keeping our tenants at the best quality tenants, both for the benefit of ourselves and the city. And the discussions, though respectful about the flip and sell aspect of this project after this board potentially takes action on this vote, I'll put it out there publicly. Based on our track record, we very rarely sell any assets, and we've never really sold an asset before at least 15 years after its affordability proceeds. So as Justin clearly pointed out, we're tied to these deals for about 15 years. But even after that, it's in our best interest to refinance a deal, to keep it in our portfolio, because that's what we do. So I'm hoping that answers the question. And I know you don't know us, but our track record speaks for itself as to our holding long-term of our assets. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else have any other comments or questions? Any further discussion?
I just got one more. It's about the developer fee. I was looking at the sources and uses of this project. How is your developer fee paid? Do you get most of it during the construction period, or?
No, we get Albert, that's a good question. So you're going to scratch your head on why we actually do these deals the way we do them. But our business as affordable housing developers, the developer fees are structured in a way that we don't get our fee until probably close to 18 to 24 months after stabilization of the building. Now, what does that mean? That means from today, we probably have a good 8 to 12 months before we close on our financing, which we're going to be putting everything together with the state to move forward. Then we probably have another 20 months of construction. And then we probably, hopefully, have a couple months of rent up. And then after that, we wait at least another year for our developer fee. And so it's probably a 5, 6, 7 year full cycle before we see that I'd say about 80% of the fee. We get a little bit upfront and a little bit at stabilization, which is when we get our CO and rent up. And then the balance of it comes pretty much a year after 3-month break-even stabilization, which would probably put us close to, I'd say, 4 years from now. So these are long-range deals that we make heavy investments in long-term, but we're doing it because they're long-term assets, and we believe in the growth and what the upside will be for the Lansingburgh neighborhood. And another thing about the fee that you saw, Albert, is that some of that fee, I'd say about 30 to 33% of it, is going to be kept in the deal, because right now we're going to have to reinvest part of that fee and lend it into the deal, because we're above the term sheet limits of the current HFA housing guidelines. So for that difference, we're going to have to pledge that money into this deal, so that what you see in those numbers isn't quite that number. It's probably 30% less than that, because that's what we're going to have to reinvest of our fee into the deal just to make the numbers work. But it's still worth doing. It's still a good number, and it's a good business decision for us. But it looks like a big number, but it's really not that large a number, because 33% of it is going to just stay into the deal as additional developer equity.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Justin, can I ask one more question?
Yeah, of course, Josh.
Larry, just on I don't know if that speaks to the return on investment, but how many years until you guys actually start making a profit on this facility?
Well, once we stabilize, we'll make the cash flow return that you've seen in the numbers. So though it's limited for affordable, because their rents are affordable, on 151 units, if we see 70, 80 grand a year in return, that's when you start to see the money after the first year. We also can't receive that money until it's signed off by the state as well as by our tax credit investors. So it's a very complicated business model. It works if you're a patient developer, and it works for us. Most market rate guys don't get into affordable housing because of the oversight and restrictions. We've made our living doing that. We do it very well, and we're used to having those restrictions placed on us, not only by municipalities reviewing the pilot information, but the state reviewing all of the financial information and the oversight placed on us, making sure that we rent to the right clients, that they're income eligible, that they can pay their rent, and the state oversees that, as well as our tax credit equity partner that purchases the tax credits from us. They're investing in the deal, as Justin mentioned, for over 10 years, and they get a return, but they only get the benefit of the credits if the building operates as it should. If it doesn't, and something goes wrong, they lose their ability to get the credits, and there's a recapture. We're on the hook for that. So long term, this is the type of thing that it's a business model that makes sense, but only for those that really have the patience and the knowledge to own and operate these buildings. And this is a large deal, so it's got to be done, with properly. We've grown to the point where we can do a deal of this size. We're comfortable with it. We're comfortable rehabbing it as a historic adaptive reuse. And, this building's on the National Register as a historic building. And we've talked about that in our earlier meetings that, we've done numerous historic adaptive reuse of mill buildings of similar size. So I think as partners, you're getting involved with a development entity and a team that has a good track record and can pull this off fairly comfortably. And we appreciate the confidence that the board hopefully will show in passing this pilot.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Anyone else have any further discussion or comments or questions regarding this resolution for Line Factory?
I just got one more, property management. Do we have one company managing all your properties in the capital region?
Yes, so I believe when we did our site visit in Cohoes, you met with our regional manager, Sandy Sharmetta, and the site manager at the Cohoes Lionheart facility, but it is the same team that will be managing and does manage all of our New York properties.
Okay, all right.
And again, we talked about that last month. Sue Farrell, Elbert, and from our audience, Deanna Del Paz also went, and we all toured this facility in Cohoes, and we're very impressed with how it looked, how it was managed, the tenants that we did meet. So.
Great. All right. I think that's it on questions and comments. So I will ask for a motion to approve the resolution for Line Factory Business LLC.
I'll make the motion.
Susan, do we have a second?
I'll second. Albert.
Albert. Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. All right, the resolution has been approved for Lion Factory Business LLC.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Larry. We'll see you back next
Thanks,
month.
Larry.
Okay, look forward to seeing you in January. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Larry.
you. Have a good one.
Okay, take care.
Okay. We'll jump right into the next item then. The Executive Director's Report, Steve.
We undertook the core drilling at the site next door to, or behind the hotel that we, if you remember, we adopted a project for, and I can't remember the name of it, a riverfront project. And so the core drillings were done. So we're going to be moving forward with getting out a bid to develop the river walk behind the hotel. So extended along the river another block. So that's been completed. Was it the LDs? And the other one was the footings or the docks down at the King Fuel site as well. That has been started, the underwater soundings to find out how usable those are for future project development in that area. Let's see, as I discussed before, I'm going to prepare a proposal to expand that waterfront application, waterfront project area, so that it includes the Lansingburg area as well, so that we can potentially do some funding up there of some design studies or projects in that area that benefit the projects that we're undertaking there between the St. Augustine building and this one, and hopefully a few more that we'll see in the near future. That's it for Executive Director's Report and new and old business as well.
Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions for Steve? All right. We'll move on to the final item on the agenda, which is the financials. And I'll open up to Mary Ellen.
So the first report is a statement of financial position. As of 11/30, our total assets are $464,000, with $277,000 of those assets in cash. Our liabilities are $14,000, leaving us with a fund balance of $450,000. There's no real changes to the statement of financial position. The next report is a statement of activity for November. For the month of November, we have a $6,400 surplus. Sources of revenue was rental income, which was just an adjustment and not actual income. But there were no out of the ordinary expenses.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
What's that 701 River Street expense?
So that was a few months back after the fire. We put that's money we're going to get back, basically. So that's money we put into site improvements, including the parking lot and the trail that they did back there. And when they close on their permanent financing, that and the purchase of the property will all come back to the IDA.
Okay, all right. It just sticks out.
Sticks out, yep, it does.
As a quick update, I want to share with the board that the 500 River project, Fitzgerald OZ LLC, closed yesterday. The storage project led by First Columbia across the street from the Headley building did close, and we have received 98,000, give or take, in that closing that will be dispersed to the IDA in the next few business days. So when we see the turn of the calendar in January, there'll be a pretty decent amount of revenue coming in for Mary Ellen to show as well.
Great. Good work.
Thanks.
Everybody.
And I would add that I forgot to mention, Justin, I'm glad you spoke up, was that I'm going to look at our application fee and see what other IDAs are charging as well around the area. We're charging 2,500 right now, and Justin does a lot of work up front for us and doesn't get paid by the client until the closing. And sometimes we have so many of these projects out there between DeFazio's, City Station North, 669 River Street, River Walk, that have taken a lot longer to close than they normally do. And that's just stringing Justin along on getting his money back. So frequently the fee that we get from the application fee will go to Justin and then get settled up at the end. So anyways, we're going to look at that and bring back a proposal next month to maybe amend that so that Justin's not out on the hook and it doesn't cost us anything.
Appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, it's just adjusting deposits. Some IDAs collect something like 10,000 that gets applied by the IDA towards its administrative fee as a deposit, or legal fees run up over the course of development. Sometimes these projects can travel across the calendar, 2 or 3 years, and it kind of gets us built up a little bit. So having a little bit more meaningful deposit will kind of protect us, and it's also a good tool for the IDA to have in place. Oftentimes you'll get applications that are aspirational and not necessarily ready for showtime, and having a little bit bigger deposit, I think will kind of separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit, and make sure that the applications come in when developers are at the right period of time.
Agreed on that one.
Great. Yep. Excuse me. Is any questions or anything from Mary Ellen? All right. Do we have a motion to approve the financials?
Motion.
Jim, do we have a second?
Second.
Josh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. All right, that's it on today's agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Thanks, Jim. Second, Susan. Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.
Happy
Have a good
holidays,
Christmas.
everybody. Yep.
Have a nice
Stay
holidays,
healthy.
everybody. Enjoy
See you
yourself.
guys. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Christmas.
Stay safe.